Hey, Brian, I heard you were just kicked out of the New Republic's Imperial Amnesty program. Did something crazy happen last week at that retreat?
Tongs days. Feel me?
Welcome into the Bro Force Squad podcast, where we are just a bunch of bros drinking beer and watching TV and movies. This is our review of The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 3, titled The Convert. I'm your host, the Mayor, Jeff Hornacek, joined by the mad scientist Brian Banner to review this episode, as we do all of our television episodes, using the 4 Bro Force Squad criteria, which is the acting, the story, our favorite scene, and then theories and questions going forward. All right, Brian, this episode, I think the Star Wars shows, to varying degrees of success, have sort of gotten a reputation for doing maybe one of these a season where it is largely a departure from the main narrative and the main characters, because in this one, we really only get Mando and Bo-Katan bookending the show, right? Like 4 or 5 minutes in the beginning, 4 or 5 minutes at the end, and then the rest is following Dr. Pershing and Officer Kane on Coruscant. So what did you think of the acting and the performances in this episode?
I actually thought they were really good. Dr. Pershing, I'm mobile right now, so I don't have the actor's name, but I thought, did a great job.
Omid
Uh,
Abtahi.
that
Omid
guy, yep.
Abtahi.
I thought he did a great job of showing us that he is literally just a naive scientist. He wants to do good, but doesn't understand the politics behind what it takes to be good or to sift through the imperial whatever we call them badness, I guess, and the New Republic. They're really just the same,
Yeah, he's
and
too
him kind of
stupid.
navigating that.
He's clearly too stupid to realize like when he's being played,
Correct.
which at a
Right.
certain
He's
point you have to hold him responsible for.
not disagreeing at all. I think he did a very good job of coming to that realization as the episode went on. Of look, I didn't realize what I truly deep down he did not realize what he was doing for the Empire was bad. He thought he was helping all of I don't like I don't of kind, I guess, not like mankind, but like all kinds, right?
Yeah, well, I know he referenced obviously the story about his mother passing away, and like
Yeah.
if she had access to like cloned organs, this wouldn't have happened. So there is like an altruistic motivation behind it, but at a certain point you got to realize like, dude, when have you ever seen your work used for good? Like you got to figure it
Yeah.
out at some point.
Yeah, and then you have everything with like just getting manipulated so bad to where you're doing the exact same thing but for somebody else uh, because you got these nasty yellow biscuit things. Like,
Yeah.
just come on, man.
Speaking of that, I want to talk about Katie O'Brien, who played Officer Elia Kane in this. I don't know if this was the writing or her performance, but I never for a single second that she was on screen this episode didn't think she was going to set him up and double cross him. And I'm not trying to be that guy who's like, I predicted this narrative successfully. I just mean like it was so obvious that she was not genuine in any conversation she had with him, right? It all just felt like, dude, she's obviously playing you.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. I think it was a little bit of the writing, and then I think she kind of maybe took it one step further. I think they wanted to make it fairly odd. Like it wasn't a twist that he was going to get double crossed, right?
Yeah. I mean, the second they get on
Like,
the ship, she starts acting super sketchy.
right. So I think that we are supposed to know that was their way of showing us that, like, hey, more telling us more about Dr. Pershing than it did anything else. I think she did what she needed to do to not make this an aha crazy twist to where that was just part of the story.
And I almost wonder if that plays into like how naive Pershing is. It's like I feel like everyone in the room knows that this chick is fucking with you and you still don't see it because she gave you the opportunity to pursue your work and you're so blinded by that that like you can just get conned easily when that's on the table.
Yes. And we're kind of moving more into story here.
Yeah, let's just go right into it. I'll read the
Between the two,
synopsis. According to the TV
please.
Time app, it's brief, but it says on Coruscant, former Imperials find amnesty in the New Republic. And maybe I have a different interpretation of this than you, but to me, this program is basically like people who worked for the Empire but aren't Imperial sympathizers now that it's fallen. I know it'd be hard to wean them out, but this program gives them a chance to like. It's basically like for ex-cons, right? To like get back on their feet.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe it is back in like the late 40s, early 50s, the United States hired on former Nazis for scientific research and stuff like that. So yes, they were part of a awful, awful regime, but at the end of the day, you can't lose that knowledge. And as long as we kind of oversee them, we can still be successful in getting that research and that scientific knowledge out.
Great analogy. And you can even see what like it's a big part of the episode. There are a lot of limitations on what they're allowed to do, especially like with their skills. Like Pershing isn't allowed to even like really have access to lab equipment right now. Like, you kind of need to earn the trust back. So he's just like doing simple fucking data entry and maybe getting to play Snake or Minesweeper on his computer for like an hour a day.
That's cute. You think that they allowed him to put that on his computer?
I think he found a way to get past the firewall to go to that.
Maybe. I'll buy that one.
So again, the story here, and we can touch on this in just a sec as we wrap up with theories and questions, but you get the Mandalorian plot progressing a little bit, although again, I'm struggling to find out like where that goes from here with Din getting bathed in the waters of Mandalore, and then he gets basically accepted back into his clan. Bo-Katan is forgiven as well. That runs parallel to the Imperial storyline, which sets up at the end. Like his research, Pershing's research, is stolen by Officer Kane. I have a theory on what it could be used for, but I don't know yet, based on my theory, how it ties into this series. So do you think this is like a one-off setting up something further, and now we're going to focus back on the Mandalorians, or are these storylines going to intersect at some point down the road?
I think we've got one more episode where they're not connected, and then that would bring them into
The last two
fifth
episodes.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last two episodes where it's a culmination of those two. I don't know how this is going to. I don't know how they're gonna mix the two. I'm really confused. I thought it was gonna take us a lot longer for Din to get forgiven.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought we were gonna be in the mines of Mandalore a lot longer than essentially half an episode if you combine two episodes together.
Dude, I could have done the rest of the series on Mandalore. Like something happens,
Sure.
he either gets kidnapped or like there's like a side quest he has to go on to get into the waters or something. That would have been a cool series season.
Or even them trying to escape the mines now. I mean, you know that there's that giant dinosaur fish thing in there that Bo-Katan obviously is very interested in.
Yeah, very. Yeah, that was kind of weird too.
So I'm not. I'm just not sure how they're going to merge the two storylines.
And I guess I'll save that for theories and questions. I guess. Are you ready to move on to best scene?
Do it.
All right. What was your favorite scene?
My favorite scene was. I guess it wasn't the opening scene, but the like half scene after that, the space fight or the dog fight in the spaceships. Man, has this season upped their game in space battles?
Absolutely, bro. 2 weeks in a row, I'm going with a space battle or a ship battle. Excuse me.
This was incredible, and then to have Mando basically parachute out of her ship, land on the ground, jump in his ship, and then just start murking people was incredibly done.
Looked sick. The visual of like flying by those like highlands, like the really like green aesthetic in the background was awesome. The dogfighting the Imperials was sick. What we have not got to see, because it's like cross-generational in Star Wars, is a Naboo fighter against TIE fighters. And so to finally get that, it's like a kid playing with his toys. Like you can make whoever you want to fight. So it's really cool to see that on
super
screen.
cool. To have pre-Empire and post-Empire ships fighting each other.
And dude, why did they stop making the Naboo starfighter? Like it seems to me way more maneuverable than even like an A-wing.
I mean, I don't know. To be honest with you.
I mean, it doesn't look great, but it fucking works.
I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Absolutely.
The only thing I can think of is if maybe it just isn't like strong enough to hold up Maybe it's quick and it's fast and agile, but like if you get caught, you're dead.
Yeah, I could see that. One other thing I had, so another best scene of mine, I just thought it was really interesting when Pershing first gets to the Amnesty Institute, like the dormitory or whatever, and he first, I guess, I guess you could say it's almost the first time he meets Officer Kane because they admitted like they never talked when they were on Gideon's ship. Um, that scene was interesting to me, and it brought up a question. So, what is the thing going on with his ear? Because at first I thought he had like an earpiece and someone was like talking to him, but is it like some weird tick he has that's like PTSD from the war, or is it like a medical thing?
Well, I want to say earlier in the series, he got like shot in the ear or something happened. Like he got injured in one of the
Okay.
previous episodes, but like it wasn't. I don't understand why he keeps like going to that as like a reminder.
He touches it at like really significant moments too. Like when he was giving his speech, it was like when he stopped, and it was like when he stopped his train of thought and realized like I should say something different. And then another time when Officer Kane referenced, I think it was something with his mom or something, he went to his ear, which is why I was confused what the significance was. But that scene with him and the other Imperial officers, it was just kind of interesting to like humanize him a little bit. And I think we've always talked about how one of the most interesting parts of Star Wars is it's like this massive universe with these huge space battles, but at the end of the day there are really cool stories about the grunts on the ground, like the little man working for the Empire, and like how did he get here, like what's his actual view on everything happening.
Well, and I think that why that scene in particular was so important was that set the stage for how naive he is about things.
Yeah.
About, he was like, well, what do you mean? And he didn't understand what they were talking about. And to him, like the way of the Empire and his work and his research with life, he didn't know anything outside of that. So him having these thoughts or thinking about like, oh, what do I miss from that time is very foreign to him.
And he just has no way of vetting or like using any sort of judgment of person's character. Like if you tell him what he wants to hear, he'll just unequivocally believe you. Like, okay, sounds good. It's like a little kid almost.
Yeah.
I feel like, well, if you said you have candy in that van, then I'm gonna get in the van.
I bet you have candy in that. It's probably the good shit too, not like Swedish fish.
Yeah. Wow. So we just lost a lot of. I hate Swedish fish, but there's a big group that stands them. Okay. Theories and questions to end it with.
Yeah.
All right. My first one revolves around the they retrieved from that Imperial ship at the end, right when Pershing got double crossed. Now I have a theory about what it's going to be used for, but I was confused why she would even want to take that case for whatever was she just trying to trap him, or does she want what's in that case? Because I felt like that was just materials to do research, like there was nothing in there.
So I think let's back up. So in that scene that we were talking about where they were talking with the other people in the amnesty program and everything, it was mentioned that Moff Gideon escaped the war tribunal, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like a throwaway comment. So could he be escaped, hiding out somewhere, and Kane, is that her name, right?
Yeah.
She is still working for him. And in order for the research to continue, I'm assuming at this point to still clone Emperor Palpatine into Snoke.
Snoke.
And
Okay, that was my
or
theory. Yeah.
yeah, or into another entity or whatever you want to call it. I think that she needed the work, or she needed that equipment, but she didn't know what she needed. She's just a communications officer. Where instead of getting a list and trying to figure it out, well, let's just go to the guy that knows it all and take it from there.
And then wiping his mind is basically so they can start at square one with him, and he's very impressionable. They can get him to do all this work for them again. Or is she trying to kill him when she cranked that thing up?
No, I think she's trying to wipe his mind to where he can basically be a drone and do their bidding. The knowledge of how to clone things and all of that is still in there, but we're taking away your personality, maybe even your free will to an extent.
Right.
And making you an officer of our regime and what we want to rebuild the empire to its glory.
Okay, that makes sense perfectly. And yes, my other theory, which I don't think it's like a crazy one, is that this, especially considering the timeline, the nefarious plan they have with his cloning idea is to create Snoke.
Yes. Do you think Snoke is already created and they are trying to fix him? Because obviously Snoke, oh, I guess I don't know that this, I think this is obvious. Snoke is a clone of Emperor Palpatine, correct?
Right, we've seen that, and he's grown like in like test tubes, basically.
Okay. So do you think that they need Dr. Pershing's research to make him less Snokey and more Palpatine?
Right now, he's Snooky from Jersey Shore, and they need to make him more
Right.
Snooky. No, I think considering the time, how close this is to the fall of the Empire, I feel like Snoke is either just an idea or it was like their fallback plan if and when Palpatine ever quote unquote died and they lost. And so now they're
Okay.
basically enacting this plan. And the early stages is let's get the guy that is the best at cloning and we can start the process of making test tube Snokes.
Right. Since we obviously just killed every single Kaminoan, Kaminoan, can't say that,
Correct.
which
And
we
I think
did
it,
in Bad Batch.
I even think we might see like a test tube version of Snoke in this a little bit, and Gideon might just say like who are we doing this for? And he's like, it's none of your fucking business. Or like, where did you get these samples?
I can get behind that. I don't think I want to see Snoke in Mandalorian. I think I want to try and keep. I mean, obviously, you have to have some crossover and some
Could that
connection.
be could that be part of the Ahsoka show?
I can definitely see that. And maybe instead of, uh, so maybe Moff Gideon is working for Admiral Thrawn, and now that Moff is captured, maybe Kane is now working for Admiral Thrawn to basically do the same thing.
Yeah, you just go next up on the depth chart when someone goes down.
Exactly. And that's moving to him, which then would obviously connect us to Ahsoka,
Okay,
which I would love.
that
And
makes perfect sense.
Ahsoka has to show up in this show, so we've got what two episodes, 3 episodes left, and she's got to show up at some point.
3 left. This was the halfway point, and the Filoni and Favreau have basically said this ties into the Ahsoka season pretty closely.
Pretty closely, right?
All right. Any other theories and questions? I just have one other question, which we talked about off pod before.
This is more of a comment. The score in this show continues to impress me, season over season, episode over episode.
Mm-hmm.
The way that Jorgensen can intermingle that Mandalorian theme into anything is just incredible. He is a wizard. I've said it before. I'll say it again. He is the next John Williams.
Yeah, and he might even be close to passing Giacchino at this point, like in current rankings.
Oh, I think he has passed Giacchino. Giacchino is
even with his Batman score, you put him ahead of Giacchino.
I think so.
Really?
I think so. I think Giacchino is really good at taking somebody else's score and adapting it for a sequel or a spin-off, something like that. I think that's where his strengths are,
Sure.
not necessarily coming up with multiple extremely successful themes.
Makes sense. There was a scene when they were on, I can't remember the name of the planet Bo-Katan was on, but when that dogfight was happening with the TIE fighters, there was a scene, and it was even just like a 2-second like clip. But when Mando like pulls his ship up and he goes in like a straight ascent, and it was just like this little like flute melody from the Mandalorian score, and it just played so perfectly in that moment that it normally, like, I don't notice that stuff, like one's particular note of it, but I was like, holy shit, that was really well placed.
Yeah.
All right,
what's your last question?
My last question is basically, all right, so I think at this point, the show has really no, and I'm not complaining here, I'm just saying we're halfway through the season, and I don't know who the antagonist is, and I don't know what any of the characters want, what they're trying to do. And I feel like we were sold in the trailers on a Mandalorian civil war. And I'll be honest with you, I don't feel like we're even close to getting that right now. And the main reason is with Bo-Katan being accepted into Din's clan, assuming she wants that, which she seemed pretty happy that it happened. Who is the other side of the Mandalorians to fight them? Because if it's Death Watch or the people who sort of defected from Bo-Katan, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a pretty small group of people at this point, right? Like 3 to 5 people, maybe.
I mean, I would think so. Maybe like 15 if she had people, back home. Like your reserves or your AAA team.
Do
But
you want to call those guys up? Are they ready?
I don't think they're ready. You know, yeah, I don't know. We were obviously sold on some really big action set pieces in the trailer that we haven't seen yet. So they've got a lot of delivering to do. But not only that, but yeah, like you said, like what's the end game? We've set things up in the first episode, knocked them down way too quickly in the second episode, and now after this third episode, I'm intrigued. I like what I've seen. I just don't know what direction we're going in, and we have this whole other side story with Dr. Pershing, which again, in its own right, is a great story and a great episode. I just don't know how that is going to tie into the overarching theme and the overarching story of everything.
Yeah, I completely agree, actually, with everything you said. I'm very interested in the Pershing story. I just don't know how it segues into. And again, maybe I'm not supposed to know, but like you can understand me asking these questions. One thing that I could see happening is now that word has gotten out, or it will get out, like as soon as Mandalorians, get back on their Twitter accounts, that their planet is safe, or it's been like exaggerated the damage that the Empire did to it. I could
Yeah.
see all the Mandalorian factions that are out there like going back home, and now they say, all right, now we have a neutral site game to see who actually gets to rule Mandalore, like a fight.
Either that, or could you see all the Mandalores uniting and end up fighting the New Republic? So where the New Republic, who is traditionally looked at as the good guys, are now going to be the bad guys.
Because they want to claim Mandalore. Basically, they view
Yeah,
the
because
Mandalorians as like a street gang, like the Bloods or the Crips.
not necessarily that, but they want, I don't want to say rule, but they want the Mandalorians to be represented in the Galactic Senate, and they want Mandalore to be part of the New Republic as opposed to being an independent, sovereign planet or nation.
Hmm.
So maybe the Mandalorians are going to fight like, no, we are Mandalore. We only listen to ourselves. You guys aren't going to help us with anything.
Interesting. Also, if you're the Mandalorians and the Republic comes to you and they're like, "Hey, we want you to be in the Senate," even them, they'd be like, "Well, we can't even agree on who's in charge of us." So like, that seems
Yeah,
like a step that we're not ready for yet.
yeah. Let's walk before we run here, people.
Exactly. All right, interesting stuff. Halfway point of the series or the season, excuse me, and I'm very pleased with things, despite the fact that I've very little vision of where this thing is going, which I think
I
is a
have,
testament to the show.
yeah. I feel like we are in an almost identical spot that we were in around the halfway point of She-Hulk. The difference is I have faith that this is going to come together. Where She-Hulk, I never once had faith that was going to come
The
together,
difference
and
is
it did.
I don't think Din is going to walk out of the like break the fourth wall and walk into the Disney Plus menu.
Well, yeah, I hope not. I would. There's a lot of respect for Favreau and Filoni.
Especially because this was just done. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
All right, any last thoughts, or we're gonna let the people go for season 3, episode 3?
No, I mean for halfway through, wish we had more. We're already halfway through and it's only been 3 episodes. I feel like we're still at the beginning.
Do we know when Ahsoka comes out? Is it this year?
It is this year, but I don't think it's been announced yet. I want to say maybe late summer, early fall, but I also may have just made that up because that's when I
Also,
want it.
yeah, kind of unrelated, but it sort of ties into this episode review. When Because I know nothing's even started filming. Like, what is the next Star Wars movie we're getting? This has been an insane gap, and I know they probably needed it because they made some fuck ups. But what's the plan?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea because Rogue Squadron got canceled, right?
Yep.
Or at least put on like a permanent
Feige's
hold.
Feige's got canceled. Taika Waititi's
Yep.
still doing his, but we don't even know what the story is.
Yeah. Ryan Johnson's trilogy or
That's
movie,
basically
those are
done.
gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Obviously we know we have Star Wars, the Acolyte, um, coming out,
But that's a show.
but that's a show. Ahsoka, we have
Season 2 of
um,
Andor.
season 2 of Andor. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously they're still going with Bad Batch, so I don't know what the next movie is if it's even in the near future pipeline. And I'm
Interesting.
not mad about that, if I'm going to be honest.
Maybe we'll get a Mandalorian movie. I don't know. Wishful thinking.
Maybe.
Kind of cool. That would crush at the box office.
I mean, I think the movies are more reserved for Skywalker stories and Skywalker sagas, and I think I'm just kind of over that, especially now that Rey is, I guess, technically a Skywalker.
Yeah. Oh, well. All right. Let's end on a positive note. For the Mad Sack, it's Brian Banner. I'm the Mayor, Jeff Hornacek. We are the Bro Force Squad podcast. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. 3 more episodes of The Mandalorian this season. We'll be here with you every step of the way. Please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. If you type in Bro Force Squad as 3 separate words, you'll find us there. Type in those same 3 words on letterboxd.com. You'll find us. Follow us on Twitter at Bro Force Squad and check out everything we've ever done in our lifetime. And our squad blog on our website, broforcesquad.com. Till next time, we'll see you on the planet of Mandalore. Gotta take a bath.
Yeah, I've been meaning to tell you about that.
Oh, I can smell it now.